am Debbie Oversty, and I will be helping you to map through levels A, B, and number sense. I don't know about y'all. I get really excited when I go on a trip to plan going on a vacation, maybe even running errands, especially when my kids were little. Planning was always a good thing. And so with Right Start and what we're going to work through, it's kind of like going on a trip. I know one thing, I know that homeschoolers, especially, and there could be teachers here that are not homeschooling. I think it's the same with you guys too. We love to plan. We are planners. We're like the queen of planners. There's a lot of research that we put into if we're going on a vacation, if we're going to get a different curriculum or try out a curriculum, and we don't always know what's going to happen. We want to give it a try, but at least it's a good idea to kind of know where we're headed. So I am actually going to take off my video so we can focus on the screen now. So for level A, it is a comprehensive kindergarten curriculum that has 132 lessons, which is manageable to do, within a school year. Where I live, it's 180 days that we school, so that gives you some leeway. We have a lot of different things we do in level A, but our biggest focus is number sense. So that is to be able to recognize quantities to 100 by grouping in 5s and 10. It's learning place value up to 100, recognize quantities up to 100. And here you can see we use our place value cards, we're using the abacus. So the child is getting a very interactive way of understanding. And then we start to get into some adding. And we're learning how to partition here. We're taking 4. What are different ways we can make 4? So you can see how we use the abacus. You can see how we use our part whole number set circles. Level A is also a lot of addition, but not like really big addition. We're working with our facts up to 10. However, because of the way we say our numbers, we can work with, we'll say 510. 510, we can partition. We can see it's made out of 2 10s and 3 10s. So calling our numbers that way at the beginning really helps children to understand better the place value. And then we go back, go back to calling it 50 and then 20 and 30, but they understand the place value that it holds. We also work with money. They'll be working with pennies, nickels, and dimes. And here is just a short thing we do. We're using our place value cards. We see our 2 dimes, it's 2 10s. We have our 3 pennies. We can combine it. We have 23 or 2 10 3. We work with geometry, real basic geometry. We play with solids. Here they're going to arrange their solids from the tallest, arranged from the greatest to the least. Fractions, towards the end of the year, we'll dabble into fractions, and they'll be able to know how many fourths are in a whole, how many eighths are in a whole. We work with measurement. They'll be working with tiles that are 1 inch and centimeter cubes. So they're going to be practicing measuring with centimeter cubes and with tiles for inches. My grandkids, when they would come over, I would pull out level A when they were little, just for something to do. And it got to be where they would come over to the house and they're like, can we play math, Grandma? And that's the way I look at level A. To me, level A is like, let's play some math. It's just fun. It's just a fun level. Now, level B is a comprehensive program that is geared towards 1st grade with a little bit more. We kind of go over and above in some areas. It has 140 lessons, but that's still pretty manageable to do in a year. We work with the big focus in B is addition. So we're going to work with addition facts to 18. And here we'll use the balance, which is a fun tool They'll be using this for addition, subtraction, multiplication, all throughout the levels. They are going to use these, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I can't, base 10 cards, working with bigger numbers, and they compose the big numbers, combine it together. They're learning to trade, and then they come up with their final solution. So at the end of level A or B, sorry, they're going to be able to do 4-digit adding with trading. They're going to be able to do their double-digit addition mentally. That just floored me when I was teaching this to my boys, and then I would ask them, because I learned the traditional way. You know, we had the ones, we carry, we had the tens, we do it all on paper. And so that they can do this mentally was just incredible. But the cool thing is, I learned to do it along with them. We also will keep working with place value. We're going to trade into the thousands. Here we're working with our abacus tiles, our abacus. You could see the place value cards. We're building 748 or 4108. They get to see it. They can deconstruct the place value cards if they need to. If you want to say, how many tens are in this? Well, if they don't know that it's 4 tens, we can pull it back apart and they can easily see that it's 4 tens. Well, maybe not easily, but they are better able to see that it's 4 tens. They're going to work with reading 4-digit numbers. Here we've composed 1,000, 5, 10, 4. Lots of games that'll be thrown in here to help with this understanding. Subtraction is something else we will dabble in a little bit in level B. We're going to work with subtracting facts up to 10. And so we're also going to, and this, while this bottom one is not necessarily for subtraction, I'm using it because you can see like 36 plus what equals 50. We're setting them up for subtraction also, because 36 from 50 equals what? Or 14 from 50 equals what? So while we're not focusing on subtraction here, they're still learning it in a, not quite sure the word, but it's not a big focus, but it's something that when we get to it, it's going to make sense to them because it's something they've seen already. Time is something we'll work with in level B. We're going to work with the hours and half hours and 5-minute intervals. They're going to be able to tell time on an analog and digital clock. Geometry. All this we learned, like you saw, we started in level A. We're going to come up to level B. We're going to add on to it. We're going to go deeper with it. They're going to be able to compose shapes from existing shapes. They're going to learn about prisms. They're going to keep working with money, but now we've introduced the quarter. So here we're counting money. 25, 10 makes 35, and 5 makes 40. Again, more fractions. Dabbling in this, but now we're working, they're going to be able to tell you how many fourths are in a half, or how many halves are in a whole, or how many eighths are in a fourth. And then again, more measurement. This time we're getting into the half centimeter and the half inch. We're comparing our inches and start to apply it to a ruler. We'll do that with our, we compare the centimeter cubes to the beads on the abacus. It's just a lot of fun ways to understand and learn about measurement. So you can go to our website. It's rightstartmath.com. You click on resources. It'll open up to this. You can click on sample lessons, and it will take you down to where you can click on either level A or level B, whichever one you're interested in. And it will pull up the objectives along with samples of the lesson. I like the objectives because it gives a good overview of what's going to be taught during the year. So where the dark spaces are, that just means that we're not going to work on it then. So if you notice in level A, at the very bottom, that's fractions. And I know if you are on your phone, it's going to be like impossible to see this, but the very last line is on fractions. It is dark, the first 4 rectangles. we're only going to work with fractions towards the end of the year. But if you notice, we're going to do numeration all year long. So what is needed? If you were going to get into level A or level B, you would need the book bundle. So the level A book bundle, you get your teacher's book, your workbook. The appendices are printed out on nice cardstock paper. You get this fun book, Yellow is the Sun. My children loved it. My grandkids appreciated it a lot more. My children were a little bit older when I started using Right Start, so they didn't appreciate it as much. So you have your book bundle for either A or B, and then you get the manipulative set. This is the fun. So like if you're going on a trip, right? How much fun is it if we don't have our snacks and we don't have little games to play or some movies to watch? It makes the trip a lot more interesting. And that's what our math set does. These manipulatives, you get a set. And let's just say you start in level A, you buy the set. When you go to level B, you don't have to get the set again. It's a one-time, one per family. Now, if you have multiple children, you might want to get extra of a few things like the place value cards or I got the drawing board set. I'm teaching my two grandsons right now. By the way, I've been teaching using Right Start Math since 2005. So I'm like the dinosaur of homeschooling right now. When I started homeschooling in 1993, some of you were probably not even born yet. So I've been using this for a while, and getting double of the drawing board set is definitely the way to go if you have multiple children in here. So level A, it is the introductory level. This means that someone who has not done a solid kindergarten program, they're going to come into A. Level B is not introductory. So you need to have either done level A or have done a solid kindergarten program to start into level B. One of the things with when you start into a level that's not the introductory level, such as level B, is at the beginning, we have these review lessons. And so you're going to review the subitizing and partitioning and tens on the abacus. These are things that were important concepts taught in level A. So if you're coming in, never done Right Start before, you start in level B, you want to do these lessons. If you are coming from level A and you are going straight from A to B, there's a good chance you can skip those lessons, but let your children's knowledge determine that for you. In my case, we would do a level, take a summer break, start a new level. I liked doing the review lessons at the beginning of the new school year because it was a gentle approach of getting us back into doing our homeschooling. However, I did switch to doing math year round, and in that case, I would not have done the review lessons. So you're on a trip and you see the sign, scenic area. Some of you are going to be like, oh, let's stop. I want to see, because the scenic area, it's named that because it's a lot prettier probably than what you're seeing right now. Sometimes though, you're in a hurry. You might have children who are sleeping, you don't want to disrupt them, or maybe someone has to use the bathroom, or you guys are hungry, whatever. Sometimes you'll skip the scenic area. Well, that's kind of what I look at the enrichment lessons. In level A, we have about 8 enrichment lessons, and in level B, we have about 5. But what these enrichment lessons are, it's to take math a little further. It's designed to bring the world of math into everyday life. But if there are some time restraints, these lessons can be omitted and it won't affect the rest of the journey, so to speak. I also recommend maybe you get it on the backside. Maybe when summertime comes or you get a little bit of a break, you could go back and do these enrichment lessons. So in level A, some of the enrichment lessons focus on telling time. And then in level B, one of our enrichment lessons is working with the Cotter's tens fractal, which is pretty cool because it really helps children and the parents to understand that there's a lot of ones make up 10, tens make up 100, hundreds make up 1,000. we think of 1,000, sometimes we don't think of it as that big of a number until you go to build the Cotter's tens fractal, and then you do. I still have mine from when my boys were 7 and 9, and they are now 24 and 26. I am not getting rid of them until I know I'm done using Right Start. So just saying, you do this once, keep them, you can use them again with other children. So here's the question. Level A, level B, number sense tutoring. Now, number sense tutoring, I will talk more about at the end. My focus right now is on level A and level B. Which level? So again, on our website, you can go to resources. Now, this is my recommendation. And then you can click take the placement test. Now, there is a place on here, if you notice to the right, that's on the top that says placement test. My recommendation to do resources and take the placement test is because then you can download the placement test. And I like a big overview. I like to see what I'm working with. If you would have clicked the take the placement test at the top, it would have just said over here, has a child been through a solid kindergarten program? You say yes or no. Click, no. Okay, you're in level A, no more. Or maybe you said yes, then it goes to number 2. What I like about this is you can print this out. You can hand this to your children. And it depends on the age of the children. If you have a little 5-year-old who's never done math, we know you're going to start in level A. But maybe you have an older child, maybe someone's come out of school, maybe they've done first grade. And you need to know, where do they fit in? Maybe they didn't learn all the things that we learned. I don't know, or the way we learn it. So this is a great way that you can hand it to your child. And my recommendation is don't help them any more than necessary. So an example, when I gave this to my granddaughter and she had to add 9 plus 6, she was using her fingers and she was doing a horrible job, even using her fingers. But it helped me to see where she was at and helped me to better gauge what level I needed to put her in. Now, mind you, she was going into the 5th grade when she started to homeschool, and I gave her this test. You can also, if you go back to this page, notice down below it says download a comprehensive placement test. Some of you might want it to be a little bit more comprehensive. So let's just say you have someone who has not done a solid kindergarten program, but yet has done some math. And you're like, should I skip A? Should I go to B? Well, this comprehensive placement test is designed for stuff like that. If you notice in level A, it's hitting on a lot of things that we do in level A. So if your child can fill this out and does really well with it, then you know, okay, let's go to level B. Or vice versa. If they don't do really well at it, then you know level A is the right level. Now, on journeys, we hit detours, right? I know I have. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And when we do, it doesn't keep us necessarily from getting to our destination, but it does make us slow down. Might take more time. So what are some detours? Maybe your child isn't ready. Maybe you're trying to start them in level A, they're 4.5 or 5, and they're just not ready. Then, you know what? Step back, try it again in another month or 2. Maybe there's sickness. I know we just went through sickness here. And I know when I was homeschooling my own children and we had sickness, it detoured our plans of what we were supposed to get done for that day or that week. Sometimes there's family matters. Maybe you have family visiting, or you have a child who isn't necessarily sick, but has a lot of doctor visits. New baby. I know when I started homeschooling, I was pregnant with my 3rd child. I have 6 children. So I do know that having a child, a new baby, will detour a little bit of your time. Maybe you're moving, whether you're moving cross country or just across the city, it can detour. And then if your child has learning struggles, children with learning struggles, and out of my 6, I have 3 who have learning struggles, and it takes us a little bit longer. My grandchildren have learning struggles, so it takes us a little bit longer. One of the things I like to recommend is have some math card games on standby for these times. You might not be able to get a lesson in, but if you have a couple games, and mind you, there are other games out there that involve math, and if you have some of those, use those too. But the math card games comes with the whole kit. It comes with the curriculum. Now, one of the greatest resources I think we have is if you go to the resources, click on teaching support, scroll down, we have the game list for each level, which means you can pull up all the games that are played in level A and all the games that are played in level B. And it even shows you which lesson that game is played. This is nice. You can use it. You could highlight it. You can make notes because maybe you need a few games on standby. This can be a really great source to let you know without having to go back and thumb through the book trying to figure out where the game was or what the name was or something like that. And then there's times on our trip that we will need help, a little bit more help than usual. And I'm thankful for those that have come to my aid on times when I've had a flat tire. But some of these I'm looking at is, game instruction, the overview videos, and then you just need assistance. So the overview videos, oops, sorry. The game instructions, sorry. If you go to games and click on games, it's going to take you to this section that says need help with game instructions. The first thing I tell people, I don't know about you, but playing any game, trying to read the instructions and understand the instructions is not the easiest thing to do. And it doesn't really matter what game I'm playing. It's no different with Right Start's game instructions. The best way to learn them is to actually have the cards in hand as you're reading the instructions and then do what it's telling you to do. And this is before you play with your kids. But I do know that even for some, that could be a little challenging. And so we have made instructional videos. There is a small fee for these. It's a month-by-month charge, but there are videos that you can watch that show you how to play the games. And you can check out the sample pack. Now, the sample pack is free. That is on our website. And there are 5 games here. We have a addition game, 2 addition games, a subtraction game, and a multiplication game that you can check out and see how these videos are made and if that was something you would want to invest in. We also have a blog. So if you go to the blog up on our website and then you click card games, all the card games that's ever been written about on our blog will come up. That can be overwhelming. If you want to narrow it down, go up to the little search tool, type in the game you are looking for, and it will pull up if there is a game. Now, these blogs, what we've done is we've taken pictures to try to help give more explanation, but some have also made videos, and everything on this blog that you go to, and even the videos that were made for them were done freely. So that's kind of a nice resource to have. The weekly overview videos. I picked it, the woman looking lost, because sometimes we're like a little lost on what we're supposed to do. And so if you go to our resources, click on teaching support and go down to weekly overview video support, you click on that, you can see videos that are done for level A and videos done for level B. And these are where we give pointers and tips for those lessons, maybe show how the abacus is used. It just varies on what we end up showing you, but it's people who have utilized this have let us know that it's been very helpful. So that is something you could do if you want to. Some of you may not need to. That's great. And then lastly, assistance. Sometimes we just need to talk to someone. So again, on our website, you go to contact, you can see our information, you can call our office. Right Start's office is located in North Dakota, and it's Central Time, and I believe it's 8:30 to 4 Monday through Thursday, and then they're open till noon on Fridays. You can also email info@rightstartmath.com. Now, emailing won't be as quick as calling and actually talking to someone. When you call and talk to someone at Right Start, we have other people who've used Right Start, either in the past or currently using Right Start, who are there to just help you with a lesson, help you with a game, whatever questions you have, they are there to help answer them. The same with our emailing, it's just the emailing is not as quick as a response. So then what about the number sense tutoring? Who should use it? Well, does your child have a weak understanding of number sense? They struggle with the addition, subtraction, and place value. Maybe they have some rote memorization, but they don't really comprehend what they're doing. But this is the biggest key right here. They really need to be 2 or more years below grade level. So with my granddaughter, when I gave her the test and she was struggling to add 9 plus 6 with her fingers, I'm like, we're going to have to start in level B. Well, the Right Start tutoring came out around the same time. And so I used that and it was great. It is 50 lessons. It covers multiplication, addition, subtraction, place value, gives a very strong number sense. The kids are going to learn the strategies that they learn in the lessons. In our other levels, they're going to have understanding. And then the practice comes through playing the games. We don't have worksheets for number sense because a lot of these older kids, they've done all this stuff before. They just don't have true understanding. So this was amazing for me to use with my granddaughter because we were able to, I didn't have to do B and C with her. We covered it in these 50 lessons. But this is not something for those of you that just want something quick to do with your children. You're missing out. This is for older children who have struggling for whatever reason. They've come out of school or another curriculum and they are struggling. Again, you can go see sample lessons, go to resources, click on sample lessons. You'll see the Right Start tutoring number sense. Click on that. And then you'll have a few examples of the lessons. And here's day 11. It's working on the Make 10 strategy. So you have your teaching here, and then it has the game that goes along with it. And then there's times in here where your day is just games. You don't even have a lesson. You're just going to play games for that day. And that is it. I am done right now mapping through levels A, B, and number sense. And it's open if you have any questions. Can a child use manipulatives when taking the placement or comprehensive placement test? That's a great question. Oh, with
I
somebody,
was just going to say, this is Kathleen. I don't see why not.
that's kind of where I was leaning.
You know, I think it kind of depends upon you as a parent or teacher. But the thing is if a kid doesn't know it, they don't know it, and we're going to use it with manipulatives, with our access. So I don't see why not.
Right, because like I said, my granddaughter was using her fingers. I would consider those a manipulative. So to me, it's do they know how to get to the answer is really what you're looking at. And then I look at how. And, if my granddaughter could have gotten the answer quickly using her fingers, I probably wouldn't have been as concerned. I'm a finger counter myself. I had to retrain myself. But you know what? Old habits are hard to break. And I resort back to finger counting when I am really stressed. However, if she could have done it well, I wouldn't have thought much about it. But it was painful. It was so painful to watch her. And so for that, I started her in a lower level, and she's done really well. I think Marin just posted where you could find the weekly overview. And again, if you go to our website, rightstartmath.com, you click on resources and you go down to teaching support, you'll find it there. And feel free, any question goes here. Even if you're using Right Start, you have a question about it, feel free to ask. Is it possible for them to become too reliant on the abacus? I don't think so. I've never seen that happen. We do recommend that if they need to use the tools, to let them use the tools. But every child I have taught, and I've taught children who are average learners, I've taught children who have learning struggles, they get to a point where they don't need it anymore. I've not had anyone who's been reliant on it. Although sometimes it feels like, oh my gosh, do you not know this yet? But it's okay, because you know what? We all learn at different times. I have some children that, I'll just give an example. I had my two boys went through level B together. And sometimes the older child got things really quick and the younger child struggled. Sometimes the younger child got stuff quick, the older one struggled. It just depends where they're at and the concept that's being involved. And sometimes you just have to take a step back, maybe play a game, take a day off, come back at it, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, they get it. Let's see. So I have that. I've recently had to go back to the beginning of B after making it halfway through. My daughter is autistic and got stuck. I tried just playing games, but it didn't help. So I decided to restart. It's common for autistic kids to forget things they already knew. Would the Number Sense tutoring book be good for her? She's 7. I would not go with the tutoring book because she's 7. 7's a good age to me for level B. Now I realize it's considered first grade for some kids. That's going to be 6 years old. My boys were 7 and one was 9 when I started them in level B. They were the youngest of my 6 children. We had some serious family issues going on, so things got put off for them. And I found that because they were older, they seemed to catch on a little bit better. But with your daughter, and I'm not sure her extensive, with being autistic, because there's varying variances to this. But I think going through and taking your time. If you have to break a lesson up into 2 lessons, do that. If her focus is only at 20 minutes, go with her focus. Don't feel like you have to get through a lesson, because I feel sometimes if you're pushing through, that's going to make it harder on everybody. And yeah, it's going to take longer to get through it, but you can consider schooling math year round. I found with my boys, I finally learned after 3 or 4 years that it was best to do math year round. Doesn't mean we did math every single day in the summertime. We did it maybe once, two or 3 times. But it just made it so much less stressful, and we moved at their pace. And then when they enjoy it, they retain it better. So I would just recommend going with her pace. Now, if she was 12, 10 or 12, yeah, I would say go with Number Sense. Let's see.
May I ask a question verbally?
Yes.
My name is Jeanette, and I've done some tutoring besides my own children. So I just want to respond to the question about using manipulatives on the tests or evaluations or placement tests. And I know this is the level A and B, so I don't see any issue with using manipulatives or not using them. But maybe that is also a good thing to reserve for the lower levels in their placement tests, because as a child ages, they're going to need to apply mathematical thought to things where you can't really have manipulatives except your fingers. And one way I did that with a tutoring student that I had was I took her to the grocery store and we did, you know, a lot of mathy type of things. And that made quick sense to me of what manipulatives I needed to use more, not in the grocery store. So that we could go back and use manipulatives in a lesson type of way. But she was old enough that she can't, you know, she wouldn't be able to carry around manipulatives in her world. But she was old enough that she should stop using manipulatives. She was behind enough that she needed to stop using manipulatives in her world, but her mind wasn't math mature enough to stop using them in the lessons. So it's just something to throw out there, I think.
I like that. And it's also helps her to see too that there's times when you aren't going to have those manipulatives around to use. But I agree with on age wise, you know, like this is A and B, it is a little different. Like I said with my granddaughter, but it was her fingers, and even her fingers are bad. So it was it's just varies with the children. But I really like that, putting more of the application, taking them somewhere and having them like the store or something doing math there, just to kind of see where they're at. Thank you.
Can I weigh in just a little bit on that?
Yes.
I love what you said. I love taking it to the store. That is awesome. I do want to push back just a little bit, and I know we're talking about A and B, so maybe this doesn't apply, but I took a multisensory math course from Marilyn Zucher, and she emphasized to us that manipulatives are important all the way up through algebra. We need to stop thinking of we need to stop thinking of manipulative as something that's for small children. They're actually for everybody. You're right, though. They can't take them with them. And so getting them to get them internalized into their brain is the goal. So just wanted to weigh in on that. Manipulatives are for everybody.
I like that. I am someone who needs manipulatives, or to see things or to touch things to get better understanding. And I know not everybody does, but I'm glad to hear that. I would like to see that more in the higher math personally. All right. Oh,
This
go
is
ahead.
Kathleen. I'm going to piggyback real quick off of that. Think about it. You know, if you're like into golfing and you walk into a golf store, what do? You start petting the golf clubs. It's like, oh, look at this one, you know, or you walk into I'm a quilt designer, so I'll walk into a store and it's like, oh, look at that blue, and I pet it. Well, why shouldn't kids be allowed to? We all do it. You know, you trail your hand across something. Oh, that's pretty. We want to touch it. That's human. We want to touch it. We want to experience it. Why in the world would a child not, when you as a grown adult do it? So we need to keep the manipulatives available. Now, they don't have to use them all the time when they no longer need them, but, and you'll notice that in the program, and I realize we're talking here about A and B. A and B, they're using them pretty much every day. But once they get going, they're going to use it less, but that's only because they don't need it. When there's a new concept, a manipulative will be there. But then again, because the child's older, they're going to move off of it. So it's not that your kid's going to go off to college with an abacus tucked under their arm.
True. All right.
Yes,
There's
I understand
Sorry.
what you're saying. That's okay. I understand. And I just wanted to say, yes, this was an older child who was really behind. And I think for both of us, and she was in a classroom setting, so there were expectations of her that were not like homeschooling expectations. And so even her tests, like she was not able to have those manipulatives, unfortunately. So it just let us both know where she was and what we needed to do. And obviously, I mean, there were manipulatives all around her when our tutoring sessions were being held. So, and eventually those things did become part of her mind and part of her thinking processes. So yes, thank you.
I think it is harder when you have an older child, and that's why where the number sense tutoring really comes in handy. Like I said, with my granddaughter, she was older, and she was a little resistant to even using the abacus because she was older. I ended up getting her the junior abacus, which was a little bit smaller than the abacus her brothers were using, and she was a little bit better at using it, but she would only use it when she absolutely had to use it. There's something about the older kids with some of it, but if she started to count on her fingers, I'd say, get the abacus. Let's use the abacus. And it was amazing how less she resorted to using her fingers. I can't say she doesn't ever use her fingers, but she's done a lot better. And so, it's sometimes it's just that encouragement. Okay, let's use it. All right, so I see a question. If I haven't finished a level, do I need to keep working through it with my child before moving on to the next, or will they miss important concepts? And I see that Miss Marn answered that to continue. Sorry, my chat thing is so small here. It's hard to see everything. And I was just going to say the same thing. I'm in the same place, to be honest. My boys, my grandboys, were behind. They're delayed. They have learning struggles. They're at 10 and 11. We're finishing up level C. I'm at like 119 in level C. I'm so ready to be done. I'm like, can we go on to D? But it's like, no, I need to finish because our brain builds upon things that we know or we understand. So when we introduce something and then we come back at it later, we've built upon it. We're building upon it. So it really is better to finish the level. Is it possible to teach a 6 and 8-year-old level B at the same time? Any tips? The 8-year-old will be faster than my 6-year-old needs more time. You're talking to someone who had their 7 and 9-year-old in level B. They stayed together until probably level D, and it was really obvious that my older son was ready to fly and my younger son was slowing down. So I think you need to be careful when you're doing this. Pay attention to where your children are at, because if your 8-year-old is zooming and you're holding them back because you have to keep up with the 6-year-old, then that would be a good idea not to keep them together, or vice versa. Maybe your 6-year-old is zooming and your 8-year-old is struggling. So I don't see, it's not impossible to keep them together, especially going through level B. However, I would gauge how they're doing. Like I said, I have my grandboys together right now. They're at 10 and 11, but they're like at the same place. They're one of them is not any quicker or faster than the other one. So I haven't felt this need that I need to separate them yet. And they feed off of each other and they help each other. So it's been a good thing so far. Hopefully that helped answer that question. But again, I would gauge your children when you're doing that. Like I said, when my kids, white boys, got to D, I switched and I started, actually we were done with D, it was getting to E. And my youngest son got overwhelmed. He went through a year where everything overwhelmed him, and I had to cut the lessons in half. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're never going to get through. But to keep it enjoyable, to keep him from having his meltdowns, he's dyslexic. He's got some ADD. I cut his worksheets in half, and it took us a little bit longer to get through it, but we got through it. And then when we got into like G and H, he was like, I'm going to do this all by myself. And he wanted to do it every day, all his lesson in one day. So you just have to gauge your children at where they're at times. And I'm going to throw this out here. All my kids seemed to struggle the most when they were going through puberty. Didn't matter what program we were using, what lesson or whatever. That seemed to be a really, really hard time with learning and stuff. Any tips on playing games? I love learning through games, but my daughter is going through a stage where she struggles to play because she's so worried about who will win and can't. Oh, wait. It's really hard. I wish this scrolled a little bit easier. who will win, and she can't even focus on the game. We played games since she was 3, and now at almost 6, she is struggling to cope. She did better when she was younger. We sometimes, I'm sorry, this is really hard. We sometimes try to say it's a team effort and not care who has a certain number of matches. Anyone else experience this? All right, I'm glad to see you guys are answering this. I'm not sure how to answer something like that personally. I feel like it's more than just playing a game. It's kind of,
We- We had that at our household, Debbie. This is Kathleen. We had this in our household. John would strut around and crow like a rooster, and Anna would sit there and big old fat tears would just roll down her face. So we had issues. And of course, John would never lose because he would quit before he ever lost. So we no longer said who won and who lost. We would just finish a game and say, good game. You want to play again? And so it was never even an issue of who won and lost. We would keep score like in the corners game, keep track of it, but it wasn't a case of, oh, I had a score of 190 and you had a score of 75. I win. It was just, oh, okay, all right, let's play it again. Part of it too is just, especially if your daughter is a firstborn, and I'm a firstborn, we don't like to lose at anything, thank you. So it's not maybe so much a math issue, it's a little girl who wants to please, maybe a firstborn, doesn't want to lose. So it's other issues, but it's still affecting your math. So take the win-lose out of the, yeah. I see Jennifer, you said, yeah, she is a firstborn. How'd I know? But yeah, take that element out of it. And so it's not a case of win or lose. It's like, wow, look how many cards you got.
Well, and I think that goes along with this other question about the second grader. My second grader has far outstripped my fourth grader. How do you prevent negative comparison and feelings of discouragement amongst children? And that's where we have to, like I told my boys, because my youngest boy would get he felt good when he could get something, or he was quicker, or he's faster. He runs faster than his older brother, but his older brother's stronger. And so my thing was, hey, that's great that you can run fast. Your older brother has his strengths too, literally his strength. He's very strong. We all have our good things about us, and we have areas we can improve on. And so I think this is good, and it is hard at this age, but it's also good for them to learn, what are areas that you are good in. There might be areas your second grader struggles in that your fourth grader does really well in. And so just kind of letting them know, you don't have to point out what it is, but just say, listen, you can do well here, your brother or sister does well here. I think it's really natural for kids to do that kind of stuff, but I think it's also important that we as parents really kind of help direct that and how they say it, and also be encouraging, because I'm not going to be as good as other people at some things. Probably most things I'm not. But when you're little like that, you don't always think about it like that either.
Can I weigh in on this?
Sure.
We are a family of game players, so we almost always play a game during dinner. And my 6-year-old granddaughter has just reached the point where she can start learning how to play Rummikub with us at dinner. And every night, I hope I win. I hope I win. And so we've been really working with her on, it's not about whether you win or lose. It's about having fun, enjoying yourself. And when it's math games, oh, look, surprise, we're also learning math. Isn't that cool? So we just kind of try to take the focus off of who wins, who loses. Did we have fun playing? Yeah, we did. That was fun.
I like that.
Kind of reframing the focus of why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree. Kids that we do, I mean, I'm with Kathleen on this one too. I'm a firstborn. I am very competitive. I have 2 brothers, but at the same time, it's more about having fun and enjoying it. All right, so here's one. My son can do the problems with the abacus, but he freezes with just a written problem and no abacus. As long as he can do the B and C problems on the abacus, can I keep him moving forward in the program? Or do I not move forward until he memorizes the math facts? I would keep moving forward as long as he could do these using the abacus. But at the same time, maybe give him one problem. Give him a problem, say, hey, let's walk. Maybe you have to model it and walk through it with him. Where he is less and less dependent on the abacus. Because if he's freezing up, there's something going on. And, like I said, my grand boys, they're kind of my focus right now with math, and they both have some learning struggles. Right Start is written for the average child. So when you have children that struggle, you're going to have to adapt some things or slow some things down, or, work through that. So sometimes, you think, wow, you shouldn't have to be using your abacus, or you shouldn't have to be using this, but yet they do. But then I will maybe walk through and ask them questions. Okay, what's the first thing we need to do? So maybe if you work with him, side by side, maybe for the rest of the problems, let him use the abacus, but we do one, and maybe the next day, one, and maybe the next day he could do two, and kind of move through that and see if that helps him. But I would not stop necessarily, because he is understanding it with using the abacus. And the memorizing the math facts, I will just say, as someone who had a hard time memorizing math facts, I still don't have them memorized. The strategies are helpful. So how does he do on the strategies? If he doesn't have it memorized, can he figure out how to get the answer? Oh, here's one. I have a 5-year-old just zooming through A, B without instruction. Advice? It's more challenging for me because hard to read through instructions for her. I never had a child like that, but I've heard of others who do. There's a lady I know that her sons just were like math savants, but she had them go through Right Start. Now she didn't necessarily have them play the games, because they were able to do the math, but they didn't always understand what they were doing. And so while she's zooming through, make sure she's understanding, like, you can do it, but can she explain and understand what she's doing? So I would make sure on that. But yeah, you may be someone who could do 4 lessons in a day. I don't know. I know some people can. We were lucky to get 1 lesson done every 2 days, so I cannot speak on that. And some days we get 1 lesson done a day, but usually not. I see children playing as a team. I think that's a great idea. Sorry, I feel like everybody's ahead of me on these. I do not see any other questions. So is everybody good?
I'd like to take 2 seconds and just clarify a point you made. This program was actually started because Dr. Cotter's son was having difficulties in math. So it wasn't created for children who were challenged, but that was something that she had been working with. So like Debbie said, you still need to adapt to fit your specific child, because I don't care how well we write something, it's never going to be exactly right for your child. That's the joy of homeschooling. That's the joy of being tutoring. That's the joy is you can make it fit that child specifically. A little bit of work on your part, because you have to figure, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to kind of move some things around. But this program will work for the struggling, for the so-called average, for those who are gifted. It has to do with the way that it's taught. So it makes it kind of a real interesting program.
Well, and piggybacking off of that, Kathleen, I appreciate that we have people, if you do have a child who's struggling, you can call or contact Right Start, because we have people who are experienced with that. They can give you ideas. They can give you suggestions. Email info@rightstartmath.com. Rachel answers these, and Rachel I believe has her master's in special education. So she is an excellent resource. And the same thing, if you're zooming through, contact. The other thing I did not mention here, and you can contact us, but there is a Facebook group for Right Start Math that is very active and has lots of good resources as far as people giving experiences and giving information and giving ideas. So if you're not part of that, you might want to look into it. We also, Right Start has their individual for levels A, level B, level C. It's not quite as active yet. It's still pretty new, but it is a place where, you could type in or send a picture or something and get advice from others.
Do you want to take a moment and mention the error documents so that people can be aware of those?
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Yes. If you go back on our website, you go to resources, and I believe it's teacher support. You can go down, and there's errata where for each level, these are things that Right Start prints their books in-house, which is wonderful because then if a mistake is made or found, they correct it. But if you have an earlier printing, or maybe you bought a level from somebody, an older level, you would want to go. I went there, I printed off, like when I was doing level G, I was in kind of the beta group when level G first came out with my boys. And so I just printed off the mistakes, and then I just taped them into my book where they applied. So that was very helpful. Thank you for mentioning that, Sharon, because that is important. And it depends, like I said, on your book. When you get a book, or if you have your book and you open up the first page, it's on it's on the opposite side of where the objectives are. And it'll say the copyright, like I'm looking at level A. My copyright is 2013. But when I go all the way down to the bottom, it says March 2020, which means this book was printed in March of 2020. So if I went to the page that shows mistakes, I don't need to bother about any of these mistakes that were made before March of 2020 that were found. I only have to deal with anything after that date. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to print the whole thing out. Look and see what your printing date, and it's going to be under the ISBN number.
I just find it helpful because sometimes if the answer that is there in the teacher's edition doesn't make sense to me for one reason or another, that's the next thing I do is check, like, oh, is this an error? And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. And I just need to think about it differently and get to the right answer with my student. But
well, and if an error
is
found, you can let Right Start know, and they'll, they address it pretty quick. So I see someone, Marjana, who says she's tutoring online, would love to see some resources for online. I don't know if it's possible, but an abacus that could be manipulated on the computer screen would be marvelous. We do have an app that you can get an abacus on your app that you could do. I also know I do a lot of my math with my grandboys through Zoom. And so I just have a camera that moves, and then I'll just pan it down onto my abacus so they can see it moving. I know we have others here who are tutors, and that is something else also, is we do have a group of women who are tutors who they're in a group, a Facebook group.
Yeah.
So you can
if you're tutoring Right Start, and we basically say if you're teaching someone else's child, whether or not it's for money or not, we will let you into that group, and that group is basically focused on exactly this type of thing. How do we take Right Start into the virtual environment, or how do we use it helping a child that might have different challenges than our own child or whatever? So it's a good, helpful group too. It's not as active as the Buy-Sell Chat group, but it's a good place to ask questions and not feel like everybody sees your question.
I have someone who's asking how you find the documents. So here's our website. It's rightstartmath.com. If you click on resources and you go down to teaching support, and then you scroll down, you see there's the corrections. And I'm just going to pull one up so you guys can see. So here we have level A. Now, mind you, my book was March of 2020. So these that say 2021, I need to be alert to. This one that says 2019, I don't have to deal with. 2017, nothing. It has to be after March of 2020. And then it will let you know an assessment checklist, appendix page 8 has been updated. See the attached PDF. And then it will have the different things down below. And you can print these out and put it in your book if you need to, or make corrections just by what you see here. Where is the online abacus? So if you go to resource, you come down to apps, you can find it right there for Android and for iPhones. And there's also some games, in case y'all didn't know. There's only a couple, but they could be fun, especially like Go to 10, which is similar to Go to the Dump, which they start playing in level A and B.
My kiddos love the corners, super corners. That was their favorite.
Mm-hmm. We do too. Well, I think we're done. Thank you guys. And any more questions you have, contact Right Start. Go to the contact or email them at info@rightstartmath.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.